Yeah. You already know. Kappa Kappa. Young millionaires. The general. Okay, I wake up every day, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling great. Every day I'm getting paid, man, this life is going great. I just wanna celebrate, I made it in and out of state. $1 million in the case, I got it here in summer safe. I multiply all my millions and really I am extremely wealthy. I distributed my millions with my family. This is just the beginning, I purchased a Lamborghini. Driving around the city, believe me, you haven't seen me. Made it through all the struggle, defeated all of my rivals. I was never entitled, I had to fight for survival. Man, this life is amazing, it's crazy that where we made it. Now I'm living my dreams and I'm burning, just getting started. I made it through the struggle back when I was very worried. Now I'm chilling, get my condo, Lamborghinis and Bugatti. I know you in a hurry, but I promise don't be worried. When you see me in the club, I probably got enough to party. I'm a multi-millionaire, getting money everywhere. I ain't tripping on nobody, I just came to celebrate. Yeah, we got the party popping, got the general over here, throwing money in the air, cause we get it every day. I multiply all my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling. Multiply all my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling.
The Truth Podcast, live from the Good Grill. We got Big John, we got Nikki G's back in the game, we got Winston. What's up, guys?
What's going on?
How's it going?
Hey, we're ready to kill it. Hey, today's podcast is gonna be epic. I want to wish out a happy birthday to my man Brian Colon out there. Happy birthday, my brother. That guy's my spiritual brother. And today, you know, he actually inspired the podcast, and it's really about stick with people that celebrate your defeats and your victory. Me and Brian, we know that we've been together through many wins, many losses on both ends of us. But I'm gonna tell you right now, ultimately, when you think about that, when you really look in your corner, you ask yourself, who's really there for me celebrating my defeats? Not there really celebrating my victories, right? Who's really there to help you pick you up the floor when you're having those defeats? And it's one of those things that it was just, I know me and Brian, like I said, we've been together with major wins to major losses, but we're celebrating the same way. And one of the things, another birthday, well, actually anniversary, not really a birthday, it's Kobe, right? Kobe passed away a year ago today.
Wow.
It's been a year. Think about that, right?
I didn't realize that was a year already.
He was the second inspiration of this. And think about how many people in the beginning, like now it's all about, there's a bunch of Kobe lovers, but those same exact people were the ones waiting for him to fail. But it took something so tragic to turn those fans, right? I've been you guys seen the Tiger Woods series?
I
not yet.
haven't downloaded it. I just haven't watched it yet. It's the season one of the 2 episodes.
Yeah, 2 episodes. HBO Sports.
Yeah.
Anybody else seen it?
I haven't seen it.
It's a freaking epic. I'm going to talk about that. So I didn't realize how huge Tiger Woods really was. He came out when I was like in middle school. But when you really think about Tiger Woods and what he was accomplishing, right? You know, one thing that really blew my mind? In 1997, black people could not play in Augusta still on the golf course.
The Masters,
Wow.
yep.
I couldn't believe that, right? In 1997. This is in the 60s, right? Those same people were the ones then celebrating him after. And so what does that kind of set for us, right? And talk about this. And this really rolls me into the topic, right? Not only the celebrating, stick with people that celebrate, but this is the one thing. No matter what level you are, you're always auditioning every single day for your spot. And the moment you lose focus on that, you're going to fall from greatness, right? It is a freaking crazy. No matter what great you are, 10 Masters later, one mistake, and automatically the same people that were elevating you, bringing you down to your knees, right?
Wow.
And the crazy part is most of the individuals that are going to kick your ass, if they really looked in their closet, that fucking closet's going to be so full of skeletons that it's crazy, right? That's why I live a lot where I tell people without the judgment zone, right? Me and Brian always laugh and talking. And so he's got such a clean kind of, I call him the choir boy, right? He's got the choir boy nerd kind of feel that, when you live that, and that's what Tiger Woods was, right? Tiger Woods built this persona of what the world wanted him to be. And then he was like, he was living a double life. And at the end of the day, was he living a double life, or was your perception of him what you want to be? And so it's kind of a weird deal for me, right? That's why I've always, it's funny, me and Brian used to talk about this. A lot of my friends, that's why what you see is what you get with me. I don't claim to be goody two-shoes or any of that good shit. I'm just a bad boy that does good things. You know what I'm trying to tell you? So I like to set the bar low for me. One of the greatest interviews ever that I saw was Katie Couric and Lil Wayne. Greatest interview ever, right?
I'll have to watch
And
it.
so in that interview, Katie hits up to him and says, Lil Wayne, you're a role model, but yet, you're taught this like gangster world and you're drinking and this and that. And so she just goes down, right? Lil Wayne kind of looks at her in the camera. And I'm just going to mimic him. He says, Miss Katie, I'm not a role model. I'm a gangster. And when it stopped right there, I was like, holy shit. And he says, you know what? I'm a gangster that knows a craft. I don't want anyone looking up to me. That right there blew my mind. So he was like, guess what? I'm not setting myself up for this. But ultimately, in your life, there's something called natural state and where you perceive yourself to be. Your natural state is who you really are and who you feel you want to be and what you do. You can be moody, you can be happy, whatever your natural state is, that's where you want to focus. Where you perceive yourself to be is when you're taking yourself out of your natural dynamic to conform to either because you don't feel comfortable. Majority of the time, it's because you don't feel comfortable with yourself and you don't want to express yourself the way you are. I did this long psychological study when I was an executive where they sent me to this school. It's called MAPS training. And they did this study on me, right? Where they had these full-blown psychologists. Anyways, at the end of the day, what they found out with me is that my natural state, where I perceive myself to be, we're almost on top of each other. That's why I'm never tired. That's why I have so much energy, because what you see is what you get, right? With my friends, with the charity, doesn't matter what you see, what you get. I tell people, God number one, me number two, everyone else falls as a close second. And so I just set that up immediately. You know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people are really scared to kind of say who they are. And I think that what ends up happening is when you're in the limelight or you're doing great things, people are waiting. And I'm going to tell you something that kind of blew my mind with Tiger Woods. The guys from the Enquirer own Men's Fitness magazine. And so when they had busted him with some waitress, they were like, we can't let this out. They sat down, the exec sat down and says, now we want you on the cover of Men's Magazine. You're not going to get paid for this. And they took the deal. So when you think about that, right?
Blackmail, catch and kill.
Yeah, right?
That's what it is.
Wow.
How crazy is
You
that?
find a story and then you kill it. And we just had a president for 4 years that's the only reason he stayed. We even got elected president because his buddy from the National Enquirer catched and killed stories like that all the time. And then they blackmail them into doing things. That's sadly at the highest levels of our government. That's literally who they prey upon. They find those people that they can manipulate. So,
But you know what crazy about John? So I'm in there, right? And you're going to laugh at this. So there's this reporter, right? And he's wearing this quirky ass bow tie. And this is funny as shit. My grandfather used to tell me, never trust a man with a bow tie. He just told me that, right?
Tucker Carlson.
And so I'm looking at this guy with the bow tie, right? And he
John.
says, he looks right in the camera and
I think I'm
says,
going to get Tucker tattooed on my bust because I see him going to punch it.
we were all waiting for Tiger to fall. And he's looking in the camera and says, we were waiting for Tiger to fall. And I'm sitting there eating my chicken and I'm thinking, that's a screwed up individual. What the fuck is waiting there for you to fall? But that's a fucking reality, guys.
Well, our chaos media thrives on that. They wait for Justin Bieber to fall or Britney to sit there and cut off all her hair, and they can't just wait because it.
John wants to see Tucker Carlson go down.
Yeah. Oh, he will. But there. Have you ever seen Black Mirror? It's on Netflix.
Yeah, that show is sick.
Okay, so there's an episode that deals with this exactly. So there's an episode, spoiler alert, whatever, it's already been out for a long time, but in this like fictitious alternate reality of England, they kidnapped the prime minister's daughter. Okay, these terrorists kidnapped the daughter.
Is this the first episode with the pig?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
So they kidnapped the prime minister's daughter, like the country's like losing their freaking mind. And the terrorists tell them, okay, we'll let her go, if the prime minister fucks a pig on TV. And so literally everybody's
It's true.
sitting there watching
gotta watch the
television,
show.
watching him fuck a pig, and they
didn't even have her, right?
no,
Or something
they had let her out on the streets and freed her
prior to
it, but nobody was out there to see her free because
they're watching.
everybody was glued to their television,
they're focused now.
watching the car crash, watching the chaos. And that's the whole point of that first episode is that it's a sad part of our human nature is that a lot of people enjoy and thrive on people's chaos or misery, and it shouldn't be that way,
I'm gonna tell you right the fuck now. I'm exemplified from that shit.
Look,
I don't have any.
yet, though,
I don't-
Carlson.
I don't have any of that shit. Right. I
Yeah.
never sit down there and watch anybody fail, and I'm sitting there like, oh, that's a great thing. You know what I mean? I don't thrive on that shit. I'm trying to tell you, I'm more about the rejuvenation water. I don't like to see trees being cut down. I want to see trees being grown. That's the crazy shit that I'm talking about. But that's a reality that we have to be amongst these fucking wolves or hyenas, I call. And how are we going to play in this ecosystem, right? But how are we going to allow these individuals to really affect us that bad where it's like, holy shit, right? But think about this. In this reality, the same people that are putting you on this pedestal are saying, I'm waiting to see you fail.
Are willing to topple that pedestal.
How
Yeah.
crazy is that, right?
Yeah.
And your friends that are really your true friends, no matter through wins or losses, are going to be standing with you right there, right? No matter what. And so it's kind of a bitch, right? But it's kind of good to go through a lot of defeats to really discover who's with you, right? It's almost worth it because you immediately see who's really there for you or not.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? What you guys have any personal experiences on what I'm talking today's topic that you guys want to share?
I've been through many chapters on that. I feel like different times in my life, I had people that were kind of only along for the ride. And then when shit got bumpy, they were nowhere to be found. But at the same time, I never really cared about who was really necessarily in my corner because I was always like in a wolf state. Like it was always me. Most of my friends were wanting to party and I was like, I'm going to make money and then show up to the party like after. So like my life, I kind of just navigated in a sense that whether I had the people with me or without me. I think my problem is like I still cared about some of the hyenas, you can call them, in a sense, just because I have a big heart, and that always kind of bit me more than them waiting for my failure, because I was always in competition with myself, which I know a lot of people don't really have that, but I guess I was always in a survival mode where it was just like, I'm going to do this because I want to do this. I'm going to desire this. Like whether I failed or I succeeded, I was competing with myself. However, I feel like no matter where you are in sports, like boxing, for instance, when I fought for Pat Quintana, the coach from Las Cruces was horrible to me. But when I fought for Al Lovato, he treated me like if I was like some type of like high-end fighter, but I was still the same fighter. I was still the same person. There was a year difference, you know? So it's kind of like I've been in situations where how people look at you on who your resources are or who you're surrounded with or what you can bring to them, your network.
Your social network.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I dealt with more than people watching me fail. It was people treating me different on what circle and network I was in, which was really weird because I was still the same person. It just was the person I was fighting under the club. But at the end of the day, did it matter? I still beat up his fighter, you know, both times. It didn't matter who I fought for. So with that leading in life, it's really like, you know, how are you going to let those people affect you? You know, I've been through more failures than I have success, but my success has been more, you know, monumental steps, and my failures have been like little steps. You know, I fell back like 3 little steps. But the people you really look like when you're going through those situations, people's true colors arise. Like I remember when I had like all this money and I had cars and I had a group of people, my cars were loaded, right, with my friends. And then when my car broke down, I couldn't even get a damn ride to the Taco Bell, you know?
Yeah.
And it was just like, I never asked for gas money. I never did that, but it's just one of those things. So instead of that, I just didn't focus on that stuff. But yeah, I've dealt with different chapters. I'm sure we all have, you know, but I feel like it's like, even like with you, like how do you let them affect you is really like sets the part, because those people drown you real quick.
I mean, Nick, you've been around me for a while. I mean, that's answer that question for me. How do you think I let them affect me?
There's 0 fucks given. Let's just make that. There's not even nothing. There's 0 fucks given.
When you hang around me for a long period of time, you really get to know me. You realize that it's not an act. It's who I am. I think that's even freaked you out in the beginning to think this guy really doesn't really give a fuck, right? Well, people think 0, right? I want to ask you this question, still on this topic. Would you say, Nikki, I mean, from a female's perspective, I think there's a lot of females listening out there. Would you say that, like, you made a comment, you said, I kept those people around in my life. Do you think that in some perspective that it was more almost like that whole situation, like keeping the abuser around, like it almost becomes like normal? One thing you see a lot about with females, right? You see like these girls getting the brakes beat out of them and they stick around and they'll say like, well, I don't know anything else different. This is normal to me.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
If someone's beating the brakes out of you or demeaning the shit out of you or keeping you down, emotionally breaking you down all the time, and you're literally being treated like a fucking dish rag.
Yep.
You know, even from a friend's perspective, females tend to be like, oh, that's okay. I'm holding on. It's like a trauma bond. It's kind of weird to me.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Right?
It's a trauma bond because I finally, in my later life, in my 30s, I've kind of broke through that one because I felt like I don't know if it's because my family always made me feel bad for leaving. Like if I went to Arizona, it was like that feeling of I don't know, what's a word to say? Kind of like a dog has like separation anxiety, I guess you could say. So I always felt like a burden every time I left. Like I felt bad for them. I felt like I was leaving. And the same thing for my friends because they didn't have the same ambition I did. So like my trauma bond was feeling bad for letting people go. Guilt. There you go. Guilt. And so now it's like, who's watered my fucking garden? Right? Those are the people that I'm in. Like I reset my phone and the only people on my phone are people that have contacted me. It's still in my Google contacts. Like I can do it, but like who's watering my garden? Like who's literally there? Like thick or thin, ride or die. Those are the people that I am. But my trauma bond was carrying around like a fucking bag of trash of all these people that were just sitting in it, not even help carrying the damn bag. because I felt so bad that I was going to leave people behind. It's so weird now that I look back at it because I had that my whole 20s. Like this is a recent trauma bond that was broken.
Do you remember that our last when it was an episode we talked about people jumping in your wagon and you're pulling the wagon and they're helping you push the wagon?
Mm-hmm.
Once you think about it, always like that. You're not in a bag. They're in the fucking wagon and you're pulling them. They're not applying any type of push to it or any pull. And that's what I'm saying is that who's helping you push your wagon? It kind of calls about this in the celebrations, right? But this is deeper because when you start to climb higher and higher and higher, the victories are bigger and the defeats could be bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything, like Floyd Mayweather. Like you look at Conor McGregor, right? And he put out something heavy as like, the same people that are cheering you on are the same ones that are booing you. And he said, just get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Just get paid, right? And all these criticism. And I looked at that and I'm thinking, fuck. You have to every single day audition to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just life. It's not about what's fair. You can have your accolades, and if you're doing great things, your past and your future are going to look pretty good, right?
Absolutely.
If you're constantly doing good things, you're constantly working, you're constantly taking care of your body, you're constantly working on your mind, you're just constantly doing something positive, it's going to propel you forward. But you know what? I was looking at Conor McGregor, I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, holy shit, all these people are turning, and he's like, it doesn't matter, just get paid. And so one of the things I tell people, in any relationship, there's common interest, right? Make sure that in the relationship that you're both maximizing the common interest, because you don't want to feel like, oh shit, that person was my cheerleader, or again, then all of a sudden there's a loss and there's no one to be found, like kind of like you carrying your brother in the car. That happens a lot in marriages, huge times, marriages, relationships, business partners, where you just feel like, holy shit, I was literally carrying around the wagon with this individual. You know what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely.
And I think that's what's really major. And so in your friendships, there's got to be that balance. And, when people talk about that 100-100, it's not 50-50. What it means is if your friend's putting in 50% effort to you, put 50% back to them.
Yep.
That's still 100%, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's you got to have that equalizing system across everything. One of the greatest things I could have learned in sociology, a professor told me, is every relationship is built on common interest. And I never knew that, right? And so when you really can sit back and realize that and say, you know what, your relationship is a common interest, then you're not hurt.
Yep.
Right? So you're delivering your end of the deal, and that person doesn't want to play in your sandbox, don't be hurt.
Yeah.
But if you're over there pumping all the cheeseburgers over the wall and not getting shit for them, and then they're all done, and you're like, and that person's like, what are you talking about? You've been feeding me for three months for free. What's the story? You see what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
You got to keep that. That's the mindset that you got to keep on, right?
Yep. That's so important.
I think Phil's rolling in with a surprise, man. No, the Phil he holds.
Oh,
Hey, Phil from the grill here. Hey, Phil, look at that. Phil, you're the man, dude.
Show it on this camera right here. Hey,
Look,
we're here at the grill on
so
Saturday.
we're gonna change out this dish. We're gonna call it the General Special, dude.
Yeah.
Because this is what I order every single time I come. This
Here
is
on
the
San Mateo 3300.
Yeah, this is the show right here,
San
guys. I'm
Mateo.
telling you right now, the General Special. This is what you guys got to get. We got Big Phil right there. Appreciate you,
We
Phil.
love you, man.
welcome, guys. Thank you.
I can't focus now.
Yeah, we do our podcast here on 3300 San Mateo at the grill. Make sure you come in and support local, please. Call in, order, carry out, get a gift certificate. Support Phil. He's been great here, and he's super supportive of the community. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, Phil's one of those outstanding. And there's talk about an individual that really stands out there for the community and overcoming all kinds of stuff. That's one thing I love about Phil, right? That he just keeps on going. He keeps on trucking. Guy had a heart attack. He was here the next day. No fucking excuses.
Yeah, that's very true.
Here the next day, I called
Yeah.
him up. I'm on FaceTime. He's like, hey, I'll see you. I'll be there for the podcast. And I was like, you know what? Here's an individual, just had a heart attack, and he's here at the grill kicking ass.
You know what?
No excuses.
There's no
Right?
excuses.
No excuses. Right here. Hey, Philly, watch out, baby. Watch out. See?
love you, brother.
You know what's crazy, Phil? Is every person that ever brought me to your restaurant has been a super influencer person in the valley.
Yeah.
And every time they had a meeting with me, they'd bring me to your restaurant.
Really?
That's a true story.
Isn't that cool?
That's a true story.
That's great to hear.
Yes.
You guys are a blessing. Thank you so much.
Hey,
guys.
thank you,
We
Phil.
love you,
Thank
man.
you.
Hey, you got to look at the mushroom, baby. That's damn right there.
I took my mom home a batch of food the other day because she's been craving it. And I'm like, does no justice. You have to try it. So if you guys haven't been to the grill, you definitely got to come to the grill. Before we move on that subject, people don't realize how important it is about who is in your freaking wagon. You know, I come from like a lot of my friends got really addicted to drugs and stuff. And I always had like the hopes that I was going to shed light and hopes that I was going to shed a different way of life. And like my cousin Justin's like a prime experience, you know. I always thought that like if I kept him there and I always showed him that there's a different way to life, that he would eventually change his ways. And some people are just really embedded where you can't change them, you know. So it's not like he held my wagon down. I just feel like he was in someone else's wrong wagon, you know. So like whether you're pulling people or you're in someone's network, who your network is so important because you can be influenced very badly.
Let's focus that analogy right there, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So to keep it simple for people's minds. So think about this. He's on the side. You're pulling your wagon. You stopped. And are like, hey, jump in my wagon. But he was so fucked up that he didn't jump in your wagon, but you stopped pulling.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're not doing anything. So it's just as bad if the wagon's not being pulled, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the advancement in life of where you're going. So when you think about that, Nikki, that's so true. And we've talked about this in many podcasts, right? It's at the end of the day, who you surround yourself with is who you're going to become.
Absolutely.
Right. So if you start hanging around with a lot of crackpots, you're probably going to be a crackpot sometime along the way because you're going to pick up those ways, right?
Yeah.
My grandma used to be like, you hang with wolves, you learn how to howl like one. You know what I mean? Birds of a feather flock together. You know, you hang out with the trash, you're going to smell like it. You know, wherever you want to go, there's the analogy for you. But yeah, going down that path is you got to just, you know, kind of touch on that. I said, so Nikki, give us a little bit of this. Compare just up to 3 years ago to where your current state is.
Holy shit. Okay. I'm going to fast forward to 3 years ago. I just left. I made a decision to leave corporate America again, and I've been on a journey. But I'm going to not do 3 years ago. I'm going to do about, we'll say a year ago. Since I started rolling with you and your crew, I've changed drastically, not because of what has been available and what I've been doing, but it was like it's kind of like on my Glowforge, on my laser engraver. Sometimes I have to reset the focus and it cuts and burns even more precisely and more clear and more detailed, right? But sometimes when I run it and I'm pushing out 300 orders, the laser needs to be refocused because there's dust that gets on the lens, different things that happen, right? So it's not that it's not working good. It just needs to be refocused. And so like in the past year that I've been working with you, I have been so refocused in so many ways that it's domino affected every level of my life, personal life, you know, financial, you know, like different elements. But it's so crazy that all it took, it wasn't even like you. It was just like walking into a solid foundation. Like I've been walking on lily pads my whole life, and there's a whole different animal when you walk into like something that's like stilted in 1,000 feet in the ground, 3 layers of concrete floor, you know, and it's like I've leveled up so much. Just 2020, it was such a horrible year, but I leveled up mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, just by my network.
Nikki, give us you've been there now, and you think, you know, people think, is the general always on? Is this a true statement, right? Is it really there? Give us from your perspective. I don't give a shit, say worth of shit, but give us a perspective of you being under the Harmonics umbrella. Like, just kind of walk us through, like when you get there, what you feel and what it is and what the difference is. Just kind of like what's the pain, like what I expect, or what's the energy? Even because I'm a man of few words, right? I'm not even talking to anybody, really, right?
Yeah, it's so crazy because you know I kind of just adopted myself in. I just showed up and I never left. It's a true story, but it's so crazy because I got to have a little insight, you know, talking with Bree and just hearing about how Harmonix was created and sitting in Harmonix while we were moving around Suite A and hearing about how it all got started. It's so cool to sit here, fast forward, you know, 20 years to see what foundation it's created. But as for me walking into the place, it's so crazy because you got to think about it. Like my design space is my niece's old bedroom and my RV, right? So you take someone with me that like, I'm dangerously creative. I can honestly stay in my career right now in my life. I'm like super dangerous creative. But when you put me in a space like you have, it creates like I just become like legendary. Like it's so crazy. It's like almost like you put nitro on my damn Glowforge. My precision and my accuracy and everything that I'm doing is on a different level because of it's kind of like I can't go in there wishy-washy because it's like a solid foundation, right? The foundation doesn't move. So walking in there, it's so structured, but yet so free. Like, I don't feel like I walk in there and I'm like, shit, Jack knows I showed up at 9:30.
Yeah.
Damn, you know? Like, I walk in carrying whatever I was burning all morning, like, just like, da-da-da. So I get like this entrepreneur lifestyle, but with like a foundation of a fucking jet. It's really crazy because it's hard to explain. But let me tell you, Jack is the same across the board. And it's so funny. I swear he's superhuman and he wasn't born, he was bred. That's a true statement. But it's not complicated. Like you know, Carson, like just even washing the damn floors or washing the cars, it's all about strategically in a certain way, in a certain form, and then you just duplicate it. He's not inventing the wheels. He's not doing anything. Like, it's so crazy because in my mind as a creator, I'm like, what can I bring to the table? But he's already filled in the gaps that now I just got to polish it and make it look pretty. It's so crazy. I respect you so much, man, on so many levels.
Nikki G, I just, you know, I think about you is it's so awesome because individuals like yourself and Carson, when they come into my lives, and you're already come with what it is. I used to call Carson and say, you're a little fucking plant. I started watering you, and now you're this tree, right? And when you really think about it, I watch you, and it's like, holy shit, you're that kind of the same way. And I think about this, your persistence, right, in what you do. And I gotta share something with you guys. So you guys know we do a lot of low voltage, and we have to bring this. And so Nikki was around, and she's saying, you know what? We're gonna have to make something better and faster. So we cut these holes square. So you look at this, she fabricated this right here. Here's the level. But what's so cool about this is that you can now put this on the wall, scribe it, cut it, and put the box and make the job literally 70% faster. 70% faster. But what it is she would ask me, what are the fundamentals? Why do we need this? Why do we do this? And she's like, I got to make this better and faster. That's taking the initiative. So I think for what I've been able to do is when I created the Harmonix Media building, my goal was to create that type of environment so that the structure was so there that you could be like, I'm not going to apply bullshit. Because one thing about me, you don't need to impress me as a human or give me some bullshit story. I'm only judging you on based on what you're able to accomplish. And it starts off with the floors, right? Like we laugh.
Mm-hmm.
It starts off like one of the first things I always do is I make people detail cars and people are like, what the fuck is this guy doing? I'm watching you through the camera. I'm watching you to see if you can start something I've showed you from start to finish, just like Mr. Miyagi.
I was just gonna say that.
That's why I love the fucking Karate Kid. Right?
I really feel like I'm on that show for real. I'm like, I gotta do it.
And you know what's so crazy is that, you know, I show people, like I give an example, like, you know, I laughed my ass off. So the water heaters went out and Bree says, you know what? The water was cold, but I just threw extra solution. And I laughed my ass off and I said, I didn't have the heart to say, well, you know what? That's not going to really work. But the effort was there. But what's crazy about that shit is that you can never change the formula to KFC. Mm-hmm. Because the number one thing, and Carson, you can attest to this, when they're either detailing cars or this, the magic to the thing is the hottest water you can withstand. Mm-hmm. In the soap section, from the sponge to the mopping. Mm-hmm. And you see the shit just evaporate, right? And it's just moving. That is actually a key element. In business or life, you can never change a key element and expect to get something in success. Like you cannot take the working hard, smart part You cannot take the dedication portion out. You cannot take what I call pillars out of the formula, right? You can take small variables, but you can't take pillars out. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, that's so good.
And so when you think about that, if you apply that to everything in life, it's crazy. I mean, we were talking about bodybuilding, right? And it's crazy as shit. We're talking about the fundamentals are pretty simple, right? Is the amount of weight that you're going to put in, form, and nutrition. Literally, that's it. Those are the key pillars, right? If you take away the nutrition, you ain't going to grow, right? If you take away the form, you could injure yourself. The muscle's not going to grow correctly. So when you really think about it, I like what you said. I'm not really inventing anything crazy. I'm just applying the fundamentals that make the most sense unto whatever, no matter what I'm doing. But you can never change the hot water portion.
Yeah.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
You can't
sure.
add another variable to it and think that the end result's going to come out. Can't do it. It doesn't matter, right? You guys, Winston, you have anything to add to that?
It's 100% true. It's just stick to the fundamentals. Don't overcomplicate things. And it's the same thing we've said over and over and over, you know, but it's just because it is the truth. And we'll even get like relating it to bodybuilding and things like that. You'll see all these people and they're like, oh, you know, what are you taking? And it's like, I'm just dieting really good. I'm eating high protein foods. I cut my sodium down. I'm taking a lot of water in. And they're like, oh, well, I'm taking creatine. I'm taking CLA. I'm taking slow release proteins. I'm taking this and this. And it's like, holy shit. That's someone who's complicating things too much. You know what I mean? And it could even be hurting them down the road. And you'll see a lot of these athletes that compete and, you know, they were taking Anavar or they were taking, I don't know, they're basically steroids, right? Or serious fat cutters. And a lot of them are struggling with health issues today. You know what I mean? And same thing is don't take the fundamentals away from what things really are and stick to that 1 + 1 = 2 and you get the result. You never have to go and say, oh, if you cut one in this in 4 quarters and then apply this and then times it to the nearest power and blah, blah, blah. Then you're overcomplicating it. You're stressing yourself out. There's too much going on that's going to affect you in the long run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, no, I agree with 100%. It's kind of the way things, like I've said before, even all of you guys are saying the same thing in different ways and there's the same will. You know what I mean? It's the same formula.
Yeah.
To whatever you do in life.
John, from your
Over
perspective,
here.
you know, being a teacher and really coaching your son, based on what I said, what can you add? Do you agree? Or is there
Oh, no, absolutely. I can look at even just pillars of us warming up, you know, or even the things that we do. It all goes back to 5 or 6 things, even though we may make things a little more complex. The outcome can be complex, but you still have to go back to, you know, I sit there play catch with my son. And I remember when he was in the 3rd grade, this is how we'd always start doing things. I'd say, we start without the laces. We always start without the laces. And this is 5, 6, 7 years later, that's the way we start throwing every single time, you know, mainly because we want to practice in the worst conditions possible. You don't get the laces, well, you can get the best grip. Well, you got to practice.
You still got to throw it.
You've got to practice that, you know. So we little fundamental pillars, you know, whether what are you doing right, left, you know. So you can apply it to your own field of. You still have to go back to the pillars of what
Fundamentals.
You do. Fundamentals.
Even
of what
in basketball, I remember if my shot was going a certain direction, it's like, okay, is your elbow popping out? Or did you shoot off with your thumb on the opposite side, or was it your guide hand? You know what I mean? Or where your shoulders turned left or right? Simple things, you know that.
And then you
down.
can dissect problems from that based upon those things. Yes.
And sometimes the thing is a lot of people don't see the flaw that they're making either, and they continue to do it so much that it becomes a bad habit. You know what I mean? And that's when it comes in for someone to come in and say, "Hey, here's what you're doing," and taking that constructive criticism and applying it back to the fundamentals.
Let's talk a little about that, Carson. I want you to tell me from your generation, and then I want you to, John, and then Nikki, come in from a woman's perspective. Would you say that when someone's correcting you, I want you to first give your perspective. Like when someone's correcting you and says, you know what, you're doing that shot wrong. And we're not going to talk from a beginning perspective. We're going to talk about when you're probably at the highest level of you being a basketball player.
Yeah.
and you were there at the high level, and someone came in and you were sinking. I'm just gonna talk bullshit here because I'm not gonna do statistics, right? But you're sinking 13 out of 17 shots. In your mind, when someone said, "Hey, you did this and that," was your mind open to say, "Oh yeah, I fucked up," or were you like, "What are you talking about? I'm sinking 13 out of 17 shots"?
Yeah, and I guess I'll relate this to me directly, and when I would, because there were times I get that, is it would depend on the person who's giving me the feedback. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So if it's coming from, let's say, someone who just walks in the gym, or someone who's there to play a pickup game or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, this is what you're doing wrong," maybe I'll kind of focus on it a little more. But I'll be, "Oh, thanks for the feedback," or whatever. But if it's coming from someone who I'm paying lessons for, a college coach, a D1 scout,
You're not paying for it, so.
Even someone coming from that, right? Like varsity level coach, anything like that, versus more so someone who doesn't really have the credibility, I guess. I'm going to look at the feedback differently. I'm still going to take it though. And same thing. I always like to say this. I'll see it all the time, and you guys probably see it all the time. I'll have friends who will post on social media, like they're in the gym, right? And this guy's got terrible form, and they're like, "Oh my God, look at this idiot." And it's like, you're really going to be that much of a cock. And you're not going to go over there and say, "Hey, man, let me help you out." And see, if he tells you go to hell, then you're like, okay, well, he's dumb. You're just going to end up hurting yourself. But that's the thing that I can't respect at the same time either. You know what I mean? Because it was like we had the conversation earlier today. I'm the type of person, if I saw someone had a result that I wanted, when I first got into lifting weights, there was this guy, he had big freaking traps, right? And I was like, holy crap, like I'm trying to work my traps. I want to look like a freaking cobra in the back of my shirt and stuff, So I'm like, the hell with this. I'm just going to go ask this guy what he does. And long story short, he was like training me once a week. And then I have like really big, strong shoulders now because of what he was doing. But that's the thing is, for me, it was always who's the feedback coming from? Because you have to be getting the feedback from someone who's actually gotten the result or has actually coached someone to get to that. Exactly. Credible. It has to be credible. And if someone's coming to me, I can appreciate it. But then you also can't appreciate like that wise ass, right? That knows everything. He's like, "Oh, you're blah, blah, blah." But I've always been like, "Oh, cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate the time." And you take it or don't.
The reason I asked that specific question is because I wanted to get to this part and say this. So the cool part is this, is you can learn anything from anybody, even the janitor, right? But you got to take it with a grain of salt. And so people don't realize that if the janitor is telling you about how to clean the best windows, listen to it. But if the janitor is telling you about how to make this good shot and he never was an athlete, then you're an idiot. Absolutely. And that's where it goes down to the credibility. Exactly. And a lot of people, and the reason I'm getting to this is because a lot of people listen to criticism from a fucking critic that can't even move the nickel, right?
Absolutely.
Or they let it affect them.
Well, no, it affects them bad. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm trying to say, right? I used to use my famous line. I used to just shatter people's little egos when they'd come in and talk shit to me and says, "You know what?" And this is back in 2012. I was younger and this was like, fuck off, right? I used to say, my famous line was, "We're not even in the same tax bracket. How could we even be talking?" And that was my way of telling you, go fuck yourself, because, dude, what you're saying, you're coming from jealousy and hate. You're not, how can you be advising me? Exactly. And so, I used to live by that famous line where I was like, if you ain't Arnold Schwarzenegger, I don't want your fitness tips. And if you ain't Warren Buffett, I don't want your business tips.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's that credibility.
Yeah.
Now I kind of take more of the Carson's approach where I just kind of shake my head and I'm like, "You're full of shit." I don't tell you you're full of shit, but I just kind of walk out with the full of shit look, you know what I mean? But it's like, what I'm really trying to get today is I don't want our listeners and you guys out there, when someone's criticizing the shit out of you, you got to use the general's famous line. Would I fucking trade my life for yours?
Right.
And if you can answer no, fucking it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Right? At the end of the day, I'm like, would I trade my life for yours?
Yeah. Well, my mom's not gonna get pissed that I bring this up, but this weekend everyone's talking crap because I'm growing my hair out, right? And I'm almost purposely growing my hair out because everyone's
just
talking
piss them all off.
Yeah. So she like hates it. She hates it so much. And I told her, I was like, "You know what? Everyone told me not to quit Fidelity and start real estate, and look how well I'm doing. So I'm going to keep growing my hair. I'm not listening to any one of you guys." But it is jokingly, right? But it was the same thing. And not to say that there was their fault. All they wanted to do was protect me in my career and make sure I wasn't making any drastic leaps to set myself up for failure. But if I would have listened, I would still be at a corporate job, So I would be doing pretty good. I'd be making, $100,000 a year, have full benefits, the whole nine. But I would still be in a realm where I'm not truly happy or where I feel I'm fulfilling my true potential.
Or challenged.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I wouldn't be, living the lifestyle or have the experiences that I've had today if I would have listened to the critiques of that and followed that path.
But
Yeah.
I think you gotta cut them a little slack, right? Because they're going from a perspective of fear because they're thinking, shit, you've really done it. And I think about this, a guy your age getting to Fidelity and doing what you've done, your folks or the people that are trying to advise had never done that. So they're thinking, fuck you.
Yeah, I know. And
You
that's
hit
what
the
I mean.
you lit the holy grail, right?
Yeah.
So when you look about this, but let's really talk about that, right? When me and you sat down and talked about this, and I said, dude, don't jump off the fucking ship. Get your shit rolling. I said, you don't got nothing to do. Do real estate after work on the fucking weekends. Bust your fucking ass. Run 2 ships at once. Once your second ship is going big, then you jump off, right?
Yeah.
But you're willing to put double the work. That's what people don't see,
Yeah.
right? So like if the picture that looks, if I look from the outside in, and I didn't know you. Well, Carson jumped fucking Fidelity and just jumped real estate out of it.
Well, that's a lot
not a
of things
fucking
that
true
people
story,
think,
right?
And then they follow the same thing of what their assumption is.
But you know what it is?
They don't
It's
get that.
laziness. So what they want to do is this. I call it you being a fucking scapegoat. And so they want to say, well, it's like me, right? When I left CA, well, Jack could do it. He fucking left CA and started. No, dude. I was killing it. I got an $880,000 check a year. That's not the same story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, you had a huge nest egg to
yeah, I wasn't putting
funnel
the
a lot of money
house
into starting a
right.
business. Yeah.
You know, I wasn't putting the house up, mortgage. I wasn't doing any of that. And so I tell people that story. So that's not, listen, I'm never going to let me bullshit anybody and say, I went out there and I was in the fucking garage and, it was like,
Rags to riches.
yeah, no, it's not a true story. I came in and I've gradually built my wealth like one step at a time.
Yeah.
My niece is funny. She's having dinner with us on Sunday and says, my uncle is one of the cheapest guys at one time that I thought that he was living in poverty and he was rich as shit. Right at the time, it's a true story. And so I lived in this trailer that I gutted out and I put this ceiling in it and I thought I was badass and I had a pan and my famous dish was ham and cheese on wheat bread, right? And I built this carport and like I would just fucking just knock it out. And I would fix people's networks on the side for dinner. So I knew people couldn't install printers. And I've shared this in the episode, right? And so I'd be training at the gym. And if I trust them as like older people and they're like, I really like you, I'd be like, hey, I'd bust them. So I'd eat dinner at their house and I would shower and use their towel. As funny as shit it was, but I was saving the soap, the food and all that.
Yeah.
And so I saved all my per diem for 8 years. I still got it in an account, never been spent.
I love that story.
But when you think about that,
Hey,
my-
you better not give me a hard time about the bologna sandwiches.
no. So, but I'm
See
telling you,
that?
but you see what I'm trying to tell
Is
you?
that what
Yeah.
you fed him when he came over?
Huh?
Yeah.
Bologna sandwich?
No, there was a time where I was like that too, and he used to get pissed at me because he's like, "You're doing well, to enjoy yourself a little bit." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm trying to save for big."
No, but I was telling them that bologna sandwich is there's too much about the meat.
Oh,
fucking
yeah,
kill.
it's processed meat.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. If he wants to eat turkey all day long the way I was doing it, or fry the ground beef, the big old pack, I'd be negotiating the guy at Walmart. No bullshit, right?
Yeah.
So I would write people fitness plans. And I said, okay, I'm going to write you this fitness plan, but you got to give me a deal on the meat. Okay, I'm going to give you the inside deal. And it was funny because I'm a fucking negotiator. Carson will tell you, I don't pay full price for shit.
Mhm.
I'm looking for this. I'm not doing that. And it drives people's
Not
nuts.
unless someone said he can't afford it.
Yeah, if you tell me I can't afford it, then it could get wild, right? But ultimately, I'm never going to get taken to the paint.
Yeah.
And if I do, it's like, fuck, you call me slipping.
Yeah.
But I keep that edge at all single times because you know what? I know there's a lot of people out there
Mhm.
waiting to fucking celebrate my defeat,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
First thing I told you said, I want to drive with you to the podcast. I said, sure. You said, what? I said, you know what drives me? I said, the fear of fucking losing.
Yep.
Remember I told you that?
Yep.
So I come in hard every
And he
single
says
day.
it with fucking passion. You know he means it.
You know what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say? It's the fear of the loss.
It's true.
And so I'm not being driven by the victories. The victories are stuck, but I'm in that zone like I will not be beat.
Yeah.
And when I lose, it burns me inside. I'm like, son of a bitch. How did he win that deal on me? You know what I mean?
I want to give my perception of of advice as a female, because I think it's a whole different animal. I do come from a man-dominated field. And as a woman, we're constantly being judged on our emotional reaction. So like if I had people that were giving me advice and I had any type of emotional response to it, oh, it's because you're a woman. This is why men work this job, right? So I always had to battle this realm of taking in advice, because a lot of the times it was from people that was good and whatever. There was different types of personality types. But working with these engineers, I was always being tested as a female that like if I did have any sort of emotion, they would shun you. They would shun you. They would shut you off, whatever. So then I learned to just fucking bottle my emotions up. I'd go home and be mad, but I would take whatever it was, if it was something that I could apply or be better. But I'm lucky. I came with no bad habits. I was sculpted into the person I am today. But as a female, our advice was a lot different because they were judging us on our emotional response rather than our capability and our worth ethic and all that stuff. So I was one to disagree. If I disagreed, I would stop the meeting. I'd say, I don't agree. And they'd be, why? And most of the time I was valid. Like, we could do it this way. This would be cost efficient. This would be better. This is more strategic. And then when they all agreed, then they treated me different. But if there was someone that disagreed. So I just wanted to share that because I know there's a lot of females.
But I want to give you another perspective, okay? From a guy who's run a lot of females in 2 corporations. So Nikki, you're not the norm, right? So everything you stated was all from facts. You said, what did you say? We can cut the cost here. We can cut this. We can that. So that's called empirical data.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they listened.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of females that with the experiences, not with you, not I would say the majority of females, but with the experiences is where they got a bad mood. It's like, I'm not going to do it because I'm mad or I'm fighting with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the experiences these engineers are probably getting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when they got to you, you were that anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like they say about today's generation. How they're like, I'm not going to work out there. I could just sit down and YouTube it out.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way. You got to work it through.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like what they talk about, like in today's quarterbacks. And then I want to talk about the last segue off of this. Watch. Let's talk about Tom Brady, right? This is a fucking individual who's going down, who is, no matter what, and there's not an argument about it, he's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time in quarterbacks. There's nothing to talk about. He's surpassed his mentor, or who he looked up to, Joe Montana, in being at a Super Bowl 10 times, right?
In 20 years.
In 20 years.
Yeah. That's
right?
I mean, you have somebody like, like a great, like Dan Marino gets there once, and plays for, 13, 14 years and never gets back again, so I don't know.
But let's think about this. This year's hashtag, and LeBron James put it on everybody's face when he won the NFC Championship, right? Is washed up. Hashtag washed up. That's what everybody in the fucking league and people of other athletes are doing that. Tom Brady shut everybody's mouth. And the guy just carries himself with such class in the sense that he doesn't care. He's just whatever, right?
See that really posted with Gronk?
Yeah.
Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah.
Gronk
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, on TikTok, I saw that one on TikTok.
But you know what I'm trying to tell you? He's throwing out there Bad Boys for Life, no matter the washed up. Think about that. The year he won the Super Bowl, if you look at the commentators that were on SportsCenter saying, you know what? I don't know. This could be the end. I don't think Tom's going to do this. Is he going to retire? Is he throwing up the fucking shoes? Wins the Super Bowl, shutting everybody up. This is what I want you to get out of this. Sometimes it just doesn't fucking matter. No matter what you do in life, sometimes you're not going to please that person in your life. So you got Tom Brady, the fucking greatest statistically across, and you still got people hating on him saying, oh, this, that, the other. And I just laugh my ass off.
Yep.
But I use my greatest saying. The man who walked this earth with no sins, only goodness, brought people back from the death, healed you of ailments, the same people, his own people crucified him. So this is what I want you to do. Here's the fucking drum roll. If Jesus Christ was crucified,
Mm-hmm.
you don't stand a fucking chance. So make sure you're doing the things that are going to level you up. So when McGregor said, you know what, same people that are lifting me up are today's keeping me down, get paid. So make sure that ultimately the people who are around you are fulfilling you, mind, body, and spirit. And if you have people around you that are not celebrating you in your losses or when you need them, mentally, physically, right? It could even, I'm not going to say financially because it all comes in, but not lifting you. If you're in there and you're trying to lose weight and the motherfucker, oh, why do you want to lose weight for? You look good fat. That person's not there.
I hate that.
That person's not there for you.
Yeah.
You looked better when it's, you know, when I was I think I sent a picture of John last time he posted. And it's crazy, right? I was 222 pounds, ripped to shit. Remember, you're like, holy crap. And people were like, you look anorexic. I said, how could you look anorexic 222 pounds? That doesn't make any sense. Right? So what I'm telling you, oh, you know what? You look better. What that individual's really telling you is, I fucking hate where you're at. And I don't have the skill or the tenacity to get where you're at. So I'm gonna hope that I can use my words to bullshit you so you fall from greatness. That's what ultimately is happening, right? So this is what I always tell people. Look very deep in your camp and look around and think, are the people around you celebrating your wins? And if they celebrate your failures, get them out of your camp. Or get out of their fucking camp, because they might be a shit of them, you might be in that camp. So get your toys and go in the sandbox. If you're out there listening and you're getting mentally abused, you're getting physically abused, people are making you guilt trips, taking your money because of their own thing, get out. It's not going to get better, and you're not going to be able to rise, because at the end of the day, you're a good plant out of good fertile soil. Can't grow. So, bottom line, guys, what we talked about today is, remember, stay with the people that celebrate your defeats with you, that are there standing with you and saying, you know what, no matter, same thing, and your victories. We're out. The truth, baby, according to the general.
See you guys next week.
See you next week.
Grill.
At the grill.
At the grill.
Harmonix Technologies, your New Mexico business IT solution. With incredible products that will fit your needs both big and small, and unmatched service, it's your vision delivered. Learn how we can help your business roar into action today. Harmonix Technologies, your New Mexico business IT solution.